So I welcome you all to ManageEngine's free training on Network Configuration Manager. Hi, I'm Akash, a product expert at ManageEngine Network Configuration Manager, and I will be the presenter for today's free training session. If you have any doubts or questions during the free training, please leave a text in the chat panel, and our panelists will answer them for you. So today we'll be looking at configuration backup and disaster recovery, which is the first part of the Network Configuration Manager's free training series. The second part will be held in September 5, which is 1 week from now. And on that free training session, we'll be covering the topics of configlets, compliance, role-based access control, and reports. If you have not registered for the second part of the free training session, you can do so by clicking on the link provided by a panelist in the chat panel. So this is the agenda for today's free training session. First, we'll look at why do you need a network configuration management tool, and then how managing the network configuration manager becomes your comprehensive config management tool. What are the additions of network configuration manager and the requirements for installing the product? And then we'll move on to the functionalities of network configuration manager one by one, which includes device discovery, credential association, configuration backup, viewing configurations, change management, firmware vulnerability management, and finally, we'll end it with disaster recovery. So let us take a look at the first topic of today, which is why do you need a network configuration management tool? So basically, configurations are considered pivotal for every network organization because a single line of configuration can make or break a network. Hence, it needs to be monitored effectively so that no unauthorized changes are made to the configuration. That is very difficult in a large and a growing network infrastructures because the users cannot manage all their device configurations at a time. And for changes in compliance manually, so without a tool, this would also lead to a path where there would be more security vulnerabilities as well as human errors. In order to avoid this, you require a network configuration management tool, which eases the work of network operators as well as provides some functionalities, which includes minimizing configuration errors, detecting configuration changes in real time, rollbacks to trusted configurations whenever required, and ensures industry standard compliance with the industry policies such as PCI DSS, HIPAA, SOX, etc., and also streamlines the maintenance process. So ManageEngine is a comprehensive network manager that is basically a network change and configuration management tool specifically developed to manage complex configurations of all your network devices, which includes routers, switches, firewalls, etc. It helps you take control of the device configuration management cycle. So here I've listed some functionalities which the network configuration manager can do. So let's start with job scheduling. So what is this? With the network configuration manager, you can schedule network operations such as backup, executing configlets, or anything else. Suppose there are a lot of operations that you don't need to perform immediately, so that those operations can be scheduled at the right time using this particular job scheduling option. You can perform this option. Next is the configuration comparison. You can compare two configurations of different devices or two configurations of the same devices side by side, which is also color coded to provide better readability. It has real-time change detection. So whenever a change is made to the configuration of a device, it immediately alerts all the network operators. Next, we have configuration rollback, where it automatically rolls back to the previous baseline version or the stable version whenever this is enabled to minimize the changes done to a core device. Next up, we have user-based access as well as change, review, and approval mechanisms where admins play the authority. So you can restrict users access for certain operators, and you can provide them access only for 2 or 3 devices or vendor-specific devices for them to manage. And if they make any changes to the devices which you have given access to them, it will go through a review mechanisms where the changes will be immediately notified to the admin. And only if he requires the changes, he'll accept, or else he can choose to reject the change as well. this change will be notified to the operator as well. So this comes under role-based access control, which will be explained in detail in the part 2 of the network configuration manager. So next is policy compliance verification. The network configuration manager provides 4 policies as default, which includes CSS, PCI DSS, SOX, and HIPAA. And on top of this, you also have the opportunity to create custom policies from scratch, depending upon your organization's requirement. Next is remote firmware upgrade. Using the network configuration manager's config features, you can also push remote firmware upgrades. So these are some of the important functionalities which you can do with the network configurations manager. Now let us take a look at the editions we provide in the network configuration manager. There are 3 editions that we provide, which includes free, professional, and enterprise. In free edition, you can manage only 2 devices, but in professional edition, you can manage up to 10,000 devices. And in enterprise edition, you can manage up to 50,000 devices. So let me tell you the difference between the professional and the enterprise edition in the next slide. So here on the next slide, on the left side, I have listed the professional editions architectural diagram. And on the right side is the enterprise editions architectural diagram. So you can see the difference that in the professional edition, you can deploy it to a particular server. And in that server, you can manage the network devices configurations. But in enterprise editions, if you have headquarters in one location, and if you have many branches in diverse locations across the globe, you can utilize this enterprise edition where you can deploy the central server in the headquarters and you can provide all the probe servers to the branches. With the help of this, you can manage the configurations of network devices in different locations from a central server. In this way, the headquarters will know the changes that are happening in the network devices of all the location and also minimize the cost of deploying this for users. It provides complete visibility. And so this is the difference between the professional edition as well as the enterprise edition. Next, let us move on to the prerequisites of network configuration manager. So here I have listed some of the minimum system requirements for 50 devices for network configuration manager. So you should have 2 gigahertz dual core processor, 4 GB of RAM, 100 GB of storage, PostgreSQL or MS SQL database support, as well as Windows or Linux operating system. This is requirement for 50 devices only. If you want to manage more than 50 devices, you can visit the system requirements page of the network configuration manager, where we have listed the system requirements for up to 50,000 devices. And this PPT as well as the recording will be shared to you via email once the session is completed. You can utilize the links in this PPT and view the system requirements. So here are some of the protocols and ports in the network configuration manager. Protocols supported include SSH, Telnet, SCP, TFTP, SFTP, and REST API. So let me quickly walk you through the ports as well. Port 69 is for TFTP, and port 22 is for SSH, SSHHP, SSH, SFTP, and 514 is for syslog. Port 1330306 is for the database, and 8060 is for HTTPS protocol. So now let's move on to the first functionality of the network configuration manager, which is device discovery. Here I have given a short architectural diagram of how SNMP discovery works in network configuration manager. So basically the discovery engine of network configuration manager will send an SNMP request to the device, and the device will in turn send a sysobject ID to the discovery engine. Then the discovery engine will match the sysobject ID with the default or custom sysobject ID available. So if a match is found, then the device will be added automatically. And the corresponding device template will also be associated. If the match is not found, that particular device needs to be added manually. You can add the device template as well. The SNMP profiles that we support include version 1, version 2, as well as version 3. There are some of the device discovery types available in Network Configuration Manager. One is the SNMP discovery, And another one is the manual edition. SNMP discovery is for SNMP enabled devices and or SNMP supported devices. We can discover the devices in three types. One is by providing an IP name or a host name. Another one is by providing an IP range, and another one is by importing a CSV file. So let me show you how this works in the UI. So this is the UI of Network Configuration Manager. So for discovery, just go to settings and click on discovery. So as I told you before, here you can see there are three types. One is the IP host name discovery, but you need to provide an individual IP or a host name, and you can select the credentials from here. And then after you select the credentials, you can just click on discover. The particular device will be discovered. The next way which you can discover is the IP range. Suppose if you have a set of devices under a particular IP range, you can provide the start and the end IP and select the credentials and click on discover. So the devices under this particular IP range will be discovered immediately. The next way is to discover using the CSV file import option. If you have a list of devices that you would like to discover, you can just put it in a CSV file, import it here, and then click on discover. So the devices that are present in a particular CSV file will be imported immediately. So we have a particular format that needs to be followed for the CSV file. So I have listed that format below in this slide. So you can see that the host name, the IP address, the device template name, series, and model. So this format needs to be followed for every device, and then only you can upload the CSV file. So next, let's take a look at the manual edition. So this discovery method is mostly used for SNMP disabled devices or quick addition to your inventory. And under devices, so let's go back to the console and just click on inventory, and under devices, click on add device. So there are two types in this. One is adding a device directly, and another one is CSV file input. So you can just provide the host name, the vendor of that particular device, and the device template that needs to be associated with the device as well as the series and the model if required, and then click on add. So this particular device will be added along with the device template that you have given. Next is the import device from a text file. Here it is the same as the CSV file input. You can put the devices in this particular format that is given below and upload it. And the device will be added to the network configuration manager's inventory immediately. So this is the process of device discovery in Network Configuration Manager using SNMP discovery and manual edition. So here in the PPT, I have listed some of the possible errors which you may encounter while discovering your devices in the Network Configuration Manager. The first one is the device is reachable and the SNMP community is correct, but the network device is still not getting added. So there may be two reasons, one being the incorrect SNMP read community, and the other one is disabled SNMP in the device. So kindly check for the read community and check whether the SNMP is enabled in that device, and then redo it again. So the next one, if you encounter a situation where a device's object ID isn't mapped to any of the available device templates, it means that there won't be any templates to use for that particular device. In this case, what you need to do is to go to the sysobject ID finder in the settings and add a new sysobject ID to the device template. And now another scenario is when the device, there isn't a default device template available in NCM for a specific device type. So here you have a couple of options. You can either add or clone an existing device template that fits your needs, or you can reach out to NCM support and let them know you need that particular device template and they'll help you get started. So let's talk about what are device templates. So what exactly are these device templates? Essentially, device templates contain all the necessary commands required for a device's functionality. In a large network infrastructure, there are often a variety of devices from different vendors, And each device type has its own set of configuration commands for tasks such as backups, uploads, and more. Because of this diversity, it is impractical for network administrators to manually keep track of all the configurations and apply them every time a new device is discovered. This would be a time consuming and hectic process. Instead, they can use the device template feature available in the Network Configuration Manager. So we provide over 200 device templates that cover around 4,000 different devices and their configurations. This makes it easier for the network admins because they don't have to create commands for every device manually. By using a device template, you can simply add it to the configuration of your device and get started quickly. So let's take a quick look at this feature in the console. So just go to config automation and click on device templates. Here you will see a list of available device templates. From this list, you can view a template or you can clone a template or even export it. We also have the REST, we also support REST device template. If you click on any of the device template, you should be able to see its the configurations, the backup, which is backup settings, the configuration change detection, and more. If these configuration commands suit a particular device, you can simply add this device template to a newly discovered device and start using it right away. So this is the device templates in Network Configuration Manager. Next, we'll be taking a look at credentials. So these are some of the possible combinations of for protocol for backup operation in Network Configuration Manager, which includes SSH Telnet, SSH TFTP, Telnet TFTP, SSH SCP, SNMP TFTP, SSH TF SFTP, and REST API. So let's go through some of the examples of configuration backup using different protocols. The first one is SSH Telnet protocol configuration backup. In this case, the network configuration manager initiates a configuration backup command to the specific device. The device then transfers its configuration via SSH or Telnet. Once the configuration reaches NCM, it is encrypted and stored in the network manager's database. Now let us take a look at the configuration backup using SSH Telnet with TFTP protocol. NCM also comes along with a built-in TFTP server. For this method, NCM sends a configuration backup command to that device, and the device transfers the configuration file using TFTP. This file is then sent to the TFTP server, where it is encrypted and stored in the NCM database. Now let's take a look at the SCP server. Similar to the TFTP method, NCM has an SCP server. Here, the configuration file transfer is done using SCP. The file is transferred to the SCP server, encrypted, and then stored in the Network Configuration Manager's database. Now let's take a look at the SNMP with TFTP protocol. For SNMP with TFTP, the TFTP server sends an SNMP request to the device for a configuration backup. The device then transfers the configuration file using TFTP. The file is received by the TFTP server, encrypted, and then finally stored in the NCM database. So let's go over how you can provide credentials in the Network Configuration Manager. So first, let's take a look at a scenario where both the password and an enable password need to be configured. So on the left side, you have the telnet interface, and on the right is the apply credentials screen in Network Configuration Manager. Here you need to provide the login name, password, and prompt. For the enable password type, you choose password, enter the enable password, and also set the enable password. This way, the system knows how to handle both standard and enable passwords for the device. Now, if you want to go directly to the enable mode without entering an additional password, here's how you can do it. You can provide the login name, password, and prompt as usual. But in the enable password type, you still select password, but you leave the password field empty. This allows you to access the enable mode directly. Next, we have a scenario where the enable mode does not require password. After entering the login name and password, you can choose no password in the enable password type, and provide the necessary prompt. So what happens here is the system will skip asking for an enable password and move on to the next operation smoothly. So there's also a case for an empty enable password. Here you enter the login name and password like before, but in the enable password section, select empty password and provide the enable prompt. When you press enter, it won't ask for the password and will go straight to the prompt, letting you continue your work without any interruption. So in some configurations, you might have both username and an enable password or a password setup. After filling in the login name and password, you'll see an option to provide an enabled username and enable password as well. This is helpful when devices have uh, more specific credential requirements. So here's another example with a 3-com router where the prompt is set to a colon. So this is just to show you that you can customize the prompt based on your device requirements. Network Configuration Manager also supports REST API. For for example, for a pfSense device, you can choose HTTPS as the protocol, set the authentication type to local database, and then provide username and password. You can also select the configuration file type and click on Save. This way, REST API support gets enabled for that device. So lastly, there's support even for SSH key authentication as well. Instead of using a password, you can create an SSH key, provide it in the apply credential screen, set the appropriate prompt, and proceed with the enable password type. This provides a more secure alternative to traditional password authentication. So let me show you how this looks in the UI. So if you look here, you'll see, let's go to the inventory. And if you look here, you'll see a key symbol next to the device. So just click on that and the apply credential screen will appear. So in this screen, you can select the protocol that you want, whether it is SSH or SSH TFTP or any other protocol you need. And then you can enter the login name and login name, password, and prompt. So you can set the enable password type based on your requirements. So this is how you can apply the credentials your to your device. So now if you want to use a REST API, there's also an option available where you can enable it and provide the necessary details. Similarly, for SSH key authentication, you prefer using SSH key instead of a password. You can select the SSH key instead of a password you've created and provide the rest of the credentials. So that's how the credentials work in the network configuration manager. All right, let's go back to the PPT. So you might be wondering if you have to create credentials for every device individually. Fortunately, that's not the case. Network Configuration Manager has something called as credential profiles. With this, you can create profiles and easily associate them with devices whenever a new device is added to the inventory. This saves a lot of time and effort when applying credentials for multiple devices. So let me show you how this works in the UI of the Network Configuration Manager console. So go to Config Automation and then click on credentials. Here you will see a list of credential profiles that have been created. So if you want to create a new profile, just click on the plus symbol. And from there, you can provide a name, a description for the profile. And if it's for SSH, for example, you can enter the login name, the password, the prompt, and any other details that you need. Once you have filled in the required fields, just click on save, and the credential profile will be stored. So this newly created profile will then appear in the device discovery section screen where you can select it and proceed it with discovering the devices. So we also have something called as credential rules, which simplifies the process of associating credentials with devices even further. With credential rules, you can create a set of rules based on specific criteria, such as IP range, protocol, and credential profile. When a device is discovered and the credential rule is enabled, the Network Configuration Manager automatically assigns the appropriate credential profile to the device if it meets the criteria defined in the rule. So let me show you this in the UI. So here you can see the credential rules section. For example, you can create a rule with a name, a description, and a specified criteria like an IP address or an IP range, or you can select a vendor and choose a protocol like SSH and associate a credential profile. So what happens is that whenever a device within this IP range is uh, matching the criteria that is discovered, the SSH protocol and the selected credential profile will automatically be applied to that particular device. So that's how credential profiles and rules work in the Network Configuration Manager, making it much easier for network admins to apply credentials to devices efficiently. So one of the possible errors you might encounter during credential association in the Network Configuration Manager is that the DFTP or SCP servers have not been started. If you run into this issue, you should check the running status of these servers in the NCM server settings. So let me show you that in the UI. So go to settings and go to general settings and click on server settings. So once you click on server settings, here you can see the running status of various servers such as TFTP server, SCP, SFTP server, syslog server, and so on. If any of these servers showing is not running, you can simply stop the server and restart the service and try again. So let's move on to the topic of backups. So Network Configuration Manager provides backup in three different ways. One is instant or bulk backup. Another one is syslog based automated backup. And next one is scheduled backup. So starting with instant of bulk backup, if a new device is discovered in your inventory, what you can do is you can click on that particular backup, and this will immediately back up the configurations for that particular device. You can also perform this action for multiple devices at once. So let me show you how to do this in the UI. So let's go to the inventory tab, and from that inventory screen, you can select the devices that you want, and you can just click on the three dots icon. And once you click on that, you can just click on backup. So once you click on backup, these operations will be executed and the configurations will be backed up. So next we have the real-time change detection. So which is the syslog based automated backup functionality. So here's how it works. Whenever a change is detected in Network Configuration Manager, it will automatically back up the changed configuration. So you might wonder how this happens. So if a user logs into a device and makes some changes and then logs out, a logout message is immediately sent using the syslog listener. As soon as this message is received, NCM will back up the current configuration and compare it with the previous configuration file. If there are any changes detected, the new configuration will be saved as a new version. If there are no changes, the backed up version will not be saved and will be discarded. So this is how the automatic change detection works. So to enable this, you need to enable the change detection in the UI. So what you can do is you can select the devices that you want to enable the change detection for, and click on the three dots again and click on enable change detection. And after you select the devices and click on update, this should enable the change detection for those particular devices. So, so here are some of the possible errors that you might encounter while enabling the change detection process. So one common issue is that the NCM does not support syslog for a particular model. In this case, you can enable syslog by connecting to the device and executing the necessary syslog commands manually, or you can contact NCM support for assistance. Another common issue is when the change detection is enabled, but no changes are detected. This could happen due to a mismatch between the syslog ports of the device and NCM, or if the NCM syslog server is not running. So as mentioned earlier, you can check the server status in the NCM server settings. So next we have the scheduled backup. So some devices in your network infrastructure require continuous and regular backups. It's impractical for network admins to remember to back up each device at specific dates and times manually. So for those types of devices, you can use NCM's network configuration backup scheduling feature. Network configuration manager will automatically perform the scheduled backup of operation and send you a report once it is completed. So let me show you how to set this up in the UI. So go to config automation and click on schedule, and then click on the plus icon to create a new schedule. Here you need to make sure that set the schedule type as configuration backup. If it's not selected as configuration backup as a schedule type, next you can select the device group. So after you select the device group, you can set the email, and what you can do is you can click and you can check if it's like an hourly, or daily, or weekly, and after you do that, you can click on save. So after you click on save, the this schedule will be scheduled for your network configuration. So let's go back to the PPT. Now let's discuss some potential issues that can occur during scheduled backups. If a failure happens, it could be because the device credentials are incorrect. In such cases, you should check the credentials and try scheduling the backup again. So here are some common causes that could lead to a backup failure. Changed or invalid credentials. If the credentials have changed or are invalid, a backup failure could occur. Blocked ports or servers not started. If the necessary ports are blocked or the TFTP or SCP server has not started, the backup might fall. Large configuration files. If the configuration file is too large, you can adjust the timeout settings of the device template and try the backup again. Unsupported backup commands. If the device template contains unsupported backup commands for a specific device, the backup could fail. To resolve this, you can edit the commands in the device template or provide a suitable device template that matches the device's configuration backup commands. By following these steps and checking these potential issues, you can troubleshoot and resolve backup failures in Network Configuration Manager effectively. Next, let's talk about viewing configurations, starting with compare configurations. With Network Configuration Manager, you can compare two configurations of different devices or even two configurations of the same devices side by side. This comparison is color coded for clarity. Added lines are shown in green, modified lines are shown in purple, and deleted lines are shown in pink. So let me show you how this works in the UI. So let's let me show you how this. So if you want to see the changes that have been done to a particular device, so just click on that particular specific device, and you will see a list of configuration changes displayed here. If you want to compare the changes in any version, just click on that version, for instance, and here you'll be able to see. You'll notice that the it is being compared to the previous version. And if you click on modified, you should be able to see the lines that are modified in that particular version. And so this view will clearly show which lines have been added, deleted, or modified. For examples, that added lines are present in the previous version are highlighted, and the deleted lines are also indicated. So this gives you a detailed uh, view of all the configuration changes that have occurred in a specific device, helping you keep track of every single change. If there are thousands of lines in a network configuration file, this diff view will show you exactly how to pinpoint the exact changes and even down to the thousandth line. So this is the power of network configuration manager's diff view. It makes tracking and managing configuration changes straightforward and efficient. So now let's move on to the next topic, which is the baseline configuration. So, what is a baseline configuration? Essentially, it's a strong or stable configuration that is crucial during unexpected network disasters. So, what Network Configuration Manager does is once a version is labeled as the baseline, it immediately marks that version as the baseline during configuration upload in case of a disaster. If something goes wrong, you can quickly upload the stable baseline version and restore your network to a good state. So let me show you how to label a version as a baseline in the UI. So let's go to inventory again, and then let's click on a particular device and click on the particular configuration and select the three lines and click on set as baseline. So this will mark that particular version as the baseline. So now let's say that there is an error with the device and you need to upload a stable configuration. You can do this by going to the inventory again and select a particular device and click on the three dots and click on uh, upload config. So when you're uploading the configuration, the version that you have labeled as the baseline will appear for both startup and running configurations. Depending on what you have marked, you can simply click on the upload. And this baseline version will be uploaded immediately, stabilizing the device. So that covers the both the baseline configurations and how to upload configurations for a particular device. So here is a possible error that you might encounter during the configuration upload. So we don't support the upload feature for the devices. Some causes of this error could be that the telnet or SSH protocol is being used, which is not supported for uploads. To fix this, you can edit the credential from telnet SSH to SSH TFTP or SSH SCP depending on the device. And another possible cause is when the SCP or TFTP protocol is used, and while the device vendor supports it, the NCM device template does not have the upload commands for that specific device. In such cases, you can clone an existing device template or create a new one that is suitable or contact NCM support for assistance. So here's an example of an error that might occur during upload failure. Common causes could include command timeout. You can check the timeout settings of a device template and then try the upload again. Also, based on the protocol being used, ensure that the TFTP or SCP server is running correctly by checking the server settings. So the next topic is the startup and running configuration sync. This is a crucial functionality in a network organization because the running configuration should always be in sync with the startup configurations. All the changes are typically made to the running configuration. If a device shuts down or reboots unknowingly or accidentally, any changes made to that device will be lost. And if they are not synced with the startup configuration, uh, they are not synced with the startup configuration, the device's changes will be lost. Therefore, whenever a change is made to a device, it should always be synchronized with the startup configuration. Network Configuration Manager helps by detecting conflicts between these configurations and can automatically sync them to ensure consistency. So let me show you how to do this in the UI. So on that inventory screen, you can see that there's a configuration conflict status. And some devices, it might say it is in sync, and some say that the conflict is being detected. When a conflict is detected, simply click on that particular device and select the three dots again and click on sync configuration. So this action will immediately sync the running configuration to the startup configuration, resolving the conflict. So that is how the startup and running configuration sync works in Network Configuration Manager. Now let's talk about some potential errors that you might occur during this process. One possible issue is that a change occurs, but the startup running conflict is not being detected by NCM in real time. A common cause for this change could be that the real-time change detection is disabled. To fix this, enable change detection for the device, and if syslog is and check if the syslog is supported for it. If the syslog is not supported, the startup running conflict will only be detected and reported after the next successful scheduled or manual backup operation. So moving on to change management, which is another important feature of Network Configuration Manager. This feature allows you to view all the changes that are made to a particular device and automatically sync changes to different configuration versions. You can track the who, when, and what of each change and get a historical trend of changes for a particular device and see the number of modified, deleted, or added configuration lines. So one of the important features in change management is the ability to receive change notifications and roll back to previous configurations when necessary. So let me show you how to set up change notifications in the UI. So go to config automation and click on change notifications. Here you'll see existing change notifications. To create a new one, just click on the plus symbol and you'll have to provide a notification name and description. Next, select the configuration type, whether it should apply to any change specific to running configuration, startup configurations, or any custom configuration. Then choose the change type as whether it's an authorized or unauthorized change. The criteria you set will determine which notifications are being sent. You can also provide a detailed description of what you require and choose the notification medium. For example, you can select the email or you can choose the SNLP traps or syslog or a ticket. For example, if you select an email, a change is detected on a device associated with the notification, NCM will immediately send an email to that specified recipient and notifying them of the change. So now let's discuss about the rollback option. So this feature is useful for devices where you want to revert to a previous configuration without making any changes. To enable this rollback functionality, select whether you want to roll back to a previous version or you want to roll back to a baseline version. So how this works is that when a change is detected on an associated device, it will automatically roll back to the selected version, ensuring that unauthorized or unintended changes are being reversed. So now let's talk about the firmware vulnerability management. So this feature in Network Configuration Manager is designed to help you manage and address firmware vulnerabilities effectively. So here's how it works. The Network Configuration Manager receives daily updates from the National Vulnerability Database, NVD, as well as from major vendors like Cisco and Fortinet. This daily update keeps the vulnerability database in Network Configuration Manager current. When the database is updated, it identifies and lists the devices that are vulnerable, including devices details such as CVIDs and base codes. These details help you understand the severity of each vulnerability. Once you have this information, you can click on the provided links to apply the necessary patch fixes. So let me show you this in the UI. So we have a dedicated firmware vulnerability tab where you can view all the detected vulnerabilities. In this tab, the listing format includes the CVID, the base code, the device count, indicating how many devices are being affected by the CVID, and the reference URLs. So these URLs provide the detailed information about the CVID and instruction for applying those patch fixes. So next we have exposed devices tab. In this tab, in this section lists the host name, the vendor, the series and the model of the devices, and show multiple vulnerabilities. You can see a detailed count of the affected devices. So lastly, there is version distribution section. This shows how many vulnerabilities are associated with a particular vendor's version and how many devices are running that particular version. This allows you to quickly assess how many devices are affected by the vulnerability in a given version and prioritize patch fixes based on the severity. So now let's discuss the sync vulnerability DB option. So this feature is updates the firmware vulnerability data sources like NIST and other vendors to the network configuration managers database every day at 3 a.m. So you can customize this timestamp to fit your needs. If you're working with a closed within a closed network, you also have the option to manually upload CVE details. So let me show you how this works in the UI. And so navigate to the sync vulnerability DB tab and select the manual import. Here you can upload the file containing uh, the vulnerability data and provide checksum value to import it. This method ensures that the vulnerability data is available even if the database sync is not performed. For closed networks, we have a dedicated help page. Uh, we have a dedicated help page where you can download the necessary file and checksum. So just follow this link right here and provide it and download the link and upload it here and enter checksum and import the data. So next we have advanced CV search option. You can enter a CV ID into this search field to get a detailed information and all related reference URLs. So this covers the firmware vulnerability management features in network configuration manager. So next, let's move on to disaster recovery. So when a disaster recovery event occurs, the primary issues that you may face includes degraded network performance, network outages, and potential security breaches. To mitigate these risks be, and be well prepared, you should implement these strategies. So baseline configuration, establishing a baseline configuration for every device to ensure that it's secure and free from vulnerabilities. You should always sync and startup and running configurations. So regularly synchronizing startup and running configurations will help you prevent configuration drift. And you can also set up change notifications and enable rollback for critical devices to quickly revert to a stable state if needed. You can also export device configurations to your system for future reference. You can regularly back up your network configuration database. So far, we have covered the first 3 points in the training. Now let's take a look at how you can export the configurations and back up the database. So you can export the configuration of the selected device to a destination on your system, ensuring you have a backup in case of disaster. So let me show you this in the UI. So let's go to settings and click on global settings and click on export configurations. So here you can choose the export frequency, which is never daily, weekly, or monthly, and set the configuration uh, date and time for that particular export. And you can also select the group, and you can opt to receive an email by notification upon completion. Enter the email address why you'd like to receive the notification. Select the specified devices and or the devices that you wish to export. And finally, specify the destination where you want to save these configurations. And after you click on export configurations now, uh, these configurations should be exported to that particular destination directory. So the next topic is the database backup. So the database backup involves creating a backup of the network configuration manager's database. You can schedule this backup to occur monthly or weekly, directing it to a specific backup directory for future use. So let me show you this in the UI. So go to settings, and under general settings, you have something called as database backup. So here you can enable the backup option and choose the frequency such as monthly or weekly and select the desired date and specify the backup directory for added security. You can also provide a password and protect the backup file. Once it is configured, just click on save. So after you click on save, This database should be backup in that particular backup directory. So this covers the database backup feature in Network Configuration Manager. So if you are already a Network Configuration Manager customer, you can receive a $25 gift card by leaving a review. If you're satisfied with the service, please provide your review and using the link provided by our panelist. So I am also pleased to announce that NCM is now FIPS compliant. Our panelist will share a link to the page detailing our FIPS compliance, so you can learn about it. So in the part two of our free training sessions, we'll cover configlets, compliance, role-based access control, and reports. Topics will include scheduling CLI configlets, general configlets, compliance features, role-based access control, notification alerts, and report generations. So thank you for attending today's free training session. We hope you found it useful, and see you in the part two of the Network Configuration Manager's free training sessions.